Well, after nearly 3 decades in existence, the New York Liberty recently grabbed their first WNBA championship in an overtime win against the Minnesota Lynx. Perhaps fittingly, it happened in a year when women's basketball gained a whole new following. Joining me now to talk about the Liberty's season and what may be in store for the team is my good friend Geoff Magliocchetti. Geoff, welcome back, my friend.
Mike, thanks so much for having me on. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Our pleasure. So I remember when the WNBA was established in 1997 and the New York Liberty hit the scene. They had Rebecca Lobo, Teresa Weatherspoon. I know I'm showing my age. And now in 2024, their 28th season, they finally have their first championship. Talk about their success this year and what made them better than the rest, specifically in terms of their head coach and their standout players.
You're absolutely right about that, Mike, and how it had been so long for this group. But one thing that stood out to me about the Liberty from the get-go was that management, headlined by head coach Sandy Brondello and general manager Jonathan Kolb, really banked on the idea that a year chemistry, a year camaraderie, a year working together was really going to be the secret ingredient that propelled this team forward. In 2023, of course, they assembled a group of all-stars. New York has really generally avoided the quote-unquote super team label. I've taken it to calling it an assembly of all-stars. That, of course, including Breanna Stewart, Jonquel Jones, and Courtney Vandersloot, joining incumbent all-stars Sabrina Ionescu and Benigni Hamilton. They accomplished a lot in that year. They won a franchise record 32 games, but of course they fell short in the WNBA finals. They did win the in-season competition, the Commissioner's Cup 2 in 2023. So they accomplished a lot for a team that, had a lot of new moving pieces together. Those pieces also including role players like Kayla Thornton and whatnot. So, they accomplished a lot together, but fell short in the finals, falling to the Las Vegas Aces in 4 games in the best-of-5 set. But New York mostly stood pat amidst the controlled chaos, the jubilant chaos, if you will, of the WNBA offseason, one that, of course, welcomed in several high-profile rookies. There were several high-profile moves across the league, and you saw at several points. There was headline news. As you mentioned, women's basketball players suddenly became household names. So it was very jubilant for the league. It was a tremendous step forward. New York bided its time a little bit. They kind of waited in the shadows a little bit. They started to develop talent from within. Players like Leonie Fibish, who was acquired in a 2023 trade with Phoenix. She rose to the occasion at this point. They added players like Kennedy Burke to this set. They also put in rookies like Marquisha Davis and Jalen Sherrod, who weren't up there in minutes, but at the same time, they were strong for the team's morale and whatnot. And what we saw from this New York group was adaptability. One could argue that the Liberty won their championship in the least Liberty way possible, in the sense that when you come to a Liberty game, you assume that Sabrina Ionescu will hit a 3, Jonquel Jones will dominate the interior. But, we saw new ways to win for this group. Ionescu, for example, this year, so well known for her 3-point prowess, she upped her 2-point attempt rate. 47% of her tries were from 2-point range this year. Adaptability really upped her interior game a little bit. Jonquel Jones averaged 1.6 assists during her time with the Connecticut Sun. Doubled that this year, 3.2 assists this time around average. So, and we saw Courtney Vandersloot. It was a tough year for her. She tragically lost her mother, Jan, and she had to go on bereavement leave for a little bit. Not only did the team have her back, but at the same time, they stepped up for her in the process. And when she returned during the postseason, she kind of took on a new role as a 6th woman out there and really pushed things forward with Leonie Fibish rising in the starting 5. So, we saw a lot from this group this year. So I'm really pleased to see the way everyone is really pleased to see what the Liberty were able to do this year. It was a win of adaptability and a push forward. It was a bet well paid off by management and players alike.
And there seems to be a newfound glory with the WNBA here in 2024. The sport is more popular than it's ever been. People know who Caitlin Clark is. They know who Angel Reese is. And now you've got a WNBA championship in the country's biggest city. Are we finally seeing the WNBA get the attention it's been asking for?
Don't ask me, Mike. Ask the thousands that showed up to the Canyon of Heroes for the Liberty's victory parade, because that was just an excellent event, and it was really indicative of how far this has come. So I think we are seeing a fantastic point in women's sports at this time, not just basketball, but as a whole. Basketball, in particular, is really starting to take a bit of a stranglehold on the American sports imagination a little bit. It felt like every other week I was getting emails from ESPN and the league saying, we've set new ratings records. More people watched. We had millions in the peak hours. So I think that this is a strong time for the game, for the sport. Now, what comes next? I think there is a sense of responsibility that has to come forward. There has to be a sense of, getting to know these players a little bit, expanding beyond the regulars, expanding beyond the Clarks, expanding beyond the Reeses. We can acknowledge what the quote unquote Caitlin Clark effect has done while respecting those who came before and those who will come after it. So I think there's a strong sense of responsibility on all sides when it comes to looking at the women's game, and there will be many, many, many avenues to do so. Athletes Unlimited is continuing it. It's continuing its work. Brianna Stewart is working with Nafisa Collier, her fellow UConn alumna, and her 2024 WNBA Finals opponent. They have founded the league Unrivaled, taking about 33, 36 players down to Miami for a domestic off-season league, and that's going to be a great way to develop some momentum, even with all the collegiate antics going on. So I think it's great to see the game rise up. There is a responsibility on all sides, but I believe we're more than capable of handling it. I believe we're more than capable of using it in a positive light.
And Geoff, we now have the Professional Women's Hockey League that just started up last year with the New York Sirens based right here in New Jersey. There's a Women's Pro Baseball League that's supposed to hit the scene in 2026. Do you think we're in the midst of a let me do that over. 3, 2, and then it all spirals out of control from there. All right, 3, 2. And Geoff, we now have the Professional Women's Hockey League that just started up last year with the New York Sirens based right here in New Jersey. There's a Women's Pro Baseball League that's supposed to hit the scene in 2026. Do you think we're in the midst of a revolution for women's sports that goes beyond just basketball?
I think absolutely that there's a case for that. And once again, there will be, a sense of responsibility for all sides to kind of push things going forward, to kind of work with this perfectly. And, we have to, again, respect what came before, respect what's going to come. And I think there's great opportunities to do that in our state. We've long seen women's sports rise to the occasion here in Jersey. I think the best example off the top of my mind could well be what the Rutgers women's basketball team has been able to accomplish over the years under the work of Vivian Stringer. Of course, they've sent over Benigel Hamilton to New York Liberty. There's been so many who have come through Piscataway. Kalia Copper's another one comes to mind, won a gold medal with the United States national team this year, and is also working with the Phoenix Mercury a couple years after she won the WNBA title. So, and won the finals MVP too. So I think that there is a great opportunity for the state to embrace it moving forward. There's no WNBA team coming. Of course, we're seeing new teams rise up in Portland and Toronto. And of course, a new one rises next year out in the Bay Area. And one more is on the way to give us an even 16. So while there's no WNBA team I think that there's a great opportunity for the state, because we've seen so many teams come in. We've seen them, work out a little bit, but people have to realize a little bit. The Liberty did not really end a drought in the tri-state area, because Gotham FC won their league out there. So they've done some great work, and we're in contention for another one, I believe. So I think that there's a great opportunity for the tri-state area as a whole to kind of embrace what's going on right now. Because again, while Caitlin Clark has indeed had a bit of a stranglehold on what, at least in terms of the exposure, in terms of the popularity of this rise in women's sports. She's not the only one that has pushed things forward. We in the Jersey area have known that for a long time. We in the Jersey area have seen various soccer teams come in and out. I think Sky Blue FC was another one for a while. They were another soccer team that came about. The New York Power, did they play their games in Jersey? I don't fully remember, but I do remember seeing them a little bit. They might play their games at Hofstra, but I do remember they did have a bit of an impact in the tri-state area. So there is a great opportunity far beyond the Liberty, far beyond basketball, and I'm very eager to see what comes next.
It'll be an exciting few years to see that. Now, last question. The Liberty also made the finals in 2023, which I thought was interesting. The exact same record of 32-8. Do you think we'll see them make the finals a third straight year in 2025?
It's very early to determine that, of course. I mean, you look at the players right now, they're still celebrating. Jonquil Jones has had an excellent celebration going on in her native Bahamas right now. Sabrina Ionescu brought the trophy out to her alma mater in Oregon. So the players, Benaja Lady Hamilton joined Jonquil out in the Bahamas. So it's very early to tell right now. But having said that, General Manager Jonathan Kolb has really ensured that this quote-unquote super team experiment, again, don't like using that term, but whatever this experiment is, he has ensured that it is not a flash-in-the-pan type deal. He has ensured that it is not a one-hit wonder out here. He has prepared for this for a long time. He and his team, which also involves, of course, Coach Brondello and support from the owners for the Brooklyn Nets, the Tsai family, in Joseph and Clara Wu. So I think that this group has worked together to ensure that this is not a one-year wonder. And it's gone beyond that. They've obviously accomplished a lot for the last 2 years. But one of the most interesting moves that I think that the Liberty were able to do over the past few years was to ink both Benaja Lady Hamilton and Kayla Thornton to long-term deals, two players who really stepped up during this postseason. Thornton, of course, has established herself as a defensive stalwart and rose to the occasion in the clinching Game 5. I believe she played over 20 minutes in relief in that game, and Benaja came up big in Game 2 of that series. So Jonathan and company have really ensured that this is not going to be a flash-in-the-pan type deal. Now, there are some decisions to make with this group. Of course, the expansion draft is coming up. The Golden State Valkyries will be picking among a list of players. Now, what the expansion draft procedures look like, teams can protect up to 6 players on their rosters right now, and those lists will not be made public. So we can only speculate what the Liberty will do at this point. So what can they do right now? Now, some of them are going to be obvious. One thing they made clear about, there will be a, quote, big 3 that they build around in Sabrina Ionescu, Jonquil Jones, and Breanna Stewart. Perfectly fine, perfectly understandable. And Breanna Stewart, for her part, did not opt to take the max core contract last year, which allowed the Liberty to be a little more flexible over the next couple of seasons. So kudos to her. But then you have to go through who else might be eligible. Could they leave someone like Benaja exposed and get her contract off the books and maybe expand further? I don't see that happening, but who knows what we'll see. What will become of Courtney Vandersloot? Will she come back for another season? She just turned 36, so she's had a very accomplished career, second in assists all time. One thing to keep an eye on, she will be partaking in the Unrivaled League down in Florida at Breanna Stewart and the Fisa Colliers League. So I'm eager to keep an eye on her progress to see if she'll return for another year. She will be a free agent. But in any event, New York deserves a ton of credit for ensuring that this super team experiment, whatever it is not a one-year wonder. They've set the franchise up for now and later, which is huge when you're moving when you're moving into a locale like Brooklyn. New York is a place that knows the tri-state area as a whole is a place that worships, in a way, a round ball deity. We see it not just in New York, the allure of the Garden, the allure of so many professional amateur levels out there. We see it in Jersey as well. How many have come through the state and really succeed, even with the lack of a major professional team in this area? So as a whole, the tri-state area they know their ball and they're hard to impress. What Jonathan Kolb and company have done, head coach Sandy Brondello, the size, what they have all done with this group is ensure that there is something to root for, that there is something to play for, that there is a group that this area can rally around in a place like Brooklyn, and they have ensured this is not just a flash in the pan, one-year wonder. This is lasting.
Geoff Magliocchetti, fantastic insight as always. Thanks so much for coming on again.
Mike, thank you so much. Appreciate your time and insight. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, my friend. Head over to ONNJ.com for the latest news and sports anytime.